And away we go. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you happen to be in the world today. Welcome, one and all, to Coffee Talk. It is time once again for Coffee Talk Live, where we will be having some discussion about what is going on in the world today. We'll take a look at some clips from the news, share a little bit of dialogue with those of you who joined us for the live portion. And if you're listening anywhere else and you wanted to join the live portion, you can find us Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, most of the time on YouTube on Coffee Talk and Prepper University. And you can find that at Coffee Talk Live and at Prepper University. You can find me on X at Coffee Talk Chat, and you can find me on fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta as we get ready to jump off. A lot to talk about here today. Don't know if we'll get to it all. But as always, I do try to read through as many comments as is reasonable. And I'll say hello to some of the people that have chimed in so far in the live portion. I see Fred's with us here today, as well as Phil. He thinks it's going to be a good show. I hope so. Helter is here. Jimmy, Dragon, Brian joining us, Jeff, and Paul so far. Glad you all could make it here today. And hello to everyone else who either chooses not to or is unable to chime in. Some people are just listening, and naturally, more people see this after the fact than during the live portion. But it is what it is. And you saw the thumbnail, and we're going to get to it. Don't worry. Oh, you'll be hearing from me about that freaking thumbnail. But you may have heard within the last half an hour, a pope has been elected. So yes, everyone, I give you your new pope. For those of you who can see, here you go. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Pope Joe Biden. That's right, Joe Biden won by a landslide at the last minute when 20 million mail-in ballots turned up out of nowhere. They just turned up out of nowhere. They don't know what happened. 20 million mail-in votes. Most of the people who voted, of course, were from cemeteries. But yeah, Joe Biden is your new pope. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Joe Biden obviously is not the Pope. But I thought that was an interesting image. Puck wants to know if Letitia James has a statue. I'm going to get to the statue. I'm going to get to it. And Jane is here. Yes, evidently we got a North American Pope. And that is, we'll run that over really quick. I don't know anything about this guy. It doesn't matter anyways. I'm really not into Catholicism. But we will take a look at that really quickly before we move on to the other news stories, since it is literally top of the hour breaking news here that a new pope has officially been elected. I see Raccoon has joined us, as well as JJ. And Jane says Pope Leo is his chosen name. Okay. So the Telegraph, here it is. Who is Robert Prevost? First North American Pope is elected. There he is. And well, that thumb in the eye of all of the speculation that has been flying around saying that, oh, I really, really hope, and I've seen many stories on this in the last week, I really hope it's going to be a Pope of color this time. Why? So that they can say they have a Pope of color? How about someone who can do the job? No, we just want him to be of color. So Cardinal Robert Prevost, whose papal name will be Pope Leo the 14th, has become the first North American Pope. The appointment will probably please Donald Trump. I don't know if Trump cares one way or the other, as Vatican insiders previously remarked that the U.S. had more than enough geopolitical influence without taking over the papacy. That should, unless, basically, if that's even true, if that's true at all, then it demonstrates that politics are more important to the Vatican than anything biblically sound. A Vatican insider said he was not one of the obvious candidates, but he knows everybody. He spent 30 years as a missionary and he has languages. His time in Peru means he's one of the least American of the American cardinals, but he understands America and he can speak to the country, which is important in the Trump era. Make it about the president again. Prevost is 69. He was born in Chicago and has an impressive CV. He spent years in Peru, first as a missionary and then as an archbishop. He is seen as a reformer in the mold of Pope Francis, who sent Cardinal Provost to run the Diocese of Chiclayo in Peru in 2014. Cardinal Provost liked the country so much he acquired Peruvian citizenship in 2015, and he ran for the diocese until 2023, when Francis brought him to Rome to be head of the Vatican's dicastery for bishops, which is in charge of vetting nominations for senior clergy around the world. And so there you go. There's not really much else I can tell you. Not really too much else I can tell you. Yeah, Raccoon says they saw on TV, they said he was the first American, but least American that they could pick. Yeah. But they think they're doing it. If they really think they're doing it to please Trump, again, it shows you how much more political they are than biblically sound, regardless of the religious pomp and circumstance. So there you go. There you go. As we move around here. And since I brought up Joe Biden earlier, we may as well get on to Joe Biden. In case you didn't notice, he was on The View this morning. He was on The View this morning. That's 2 interviews in a row. I mean, they must have him on new vitamin B12 shots. League has joined us, as well as Justin Case. Glad you could make it today. I'm going to pull up an article about Biden here because, as I pointed out, he was just on The View contradicting himself. Don't think I didn't notice, Joe. I know Joe's not watching. Joe will never see or hear anything that I say, I'm sure. I'm sure he will never see or hear anything that I have to say. And I see that Monkey has joined us, as well as Tuck. And, oh yeah, I said hi to Leave Smoke. Didn't want to miss anybody. This is a Deadline article. Joe Biden tells The View he wasn't surprised that Trump won the 2024 election. Okay? Now, without even getting into this, we just read about Biden in his BBC interview, yesterday? And what did he say? Because I went on and on about it because of the big Freudian slip in that article. He said he was shocked. He couldn't believe, he was in disbelief that Harris lost, right? Why? She was a good candidate because she was, quote, fully funded. Fully funded. And I thought that was a really interesting wording. Oh, she was a prime candidate. She was fully funded. I was shocked when she lost. Okay. So he tells the BBC he's shocked that she lost. Goes on The View and says he's in utter disbelief that she lost. He doesn't understand what happened. He doesn't understand. Monkey says from searching info about the new Pope Leo, he doesn't support women clergy in churches. And Puck wants to know what happened to the 15 million Biden voters from 2016. Good question. But he was on The View. And do you know why he's not shocked? Did anyone see it? I'm not telling you to go watch The View because I don't know how much of that you can stomach. But you could find clips from it maybe. He's not shocked because America is racist and misogynist, and also somehow because of COVID. I'm serious. That's what he said. Okay? In his first U.S. sit-down interview since leaving office, Joe Biden said that he was not surprised when Donald Trump defeated Harris and won the 2024 election. Quote, I was very disappointed, but I was not surprised. He said that he didn't mean that he thought Harris was the most qualified to be president. Instead, he said that the Trump team went the sexist route by casting doubt that a woman could be president, and also by playing the race card. Quote, I have never seen as successful and quite as consistent a campaign undercutting the notion that a woman couldn't lead the country and a woman of mixed race, Biden said. When did that come up during the campaign? I don't recall hearing it. Do you? He also said we underestimate the phenomenal impact COVID and the pandemic had, disrupting impact on voters. Didn't he get the memo that we're not playing the COVID card anymore? Nobody believes that shit anymore. Well, there are a handful of people that are still, hell, there's still people rubbing hand sanitizer all over their body and wearing 3 masks. So I can't say nobody, but I think most people at this point, especially with Fauci sitting before Congress and saying they made the shit up, it's kind of a dead giveaway. He played the race card, he played the gender card, and the COVID card, which isn't even in the deck anymore, and blamed that and said that's why he knew that Harris was going to lose. But in the BBC the other day, you said you were shocked that she lost, right? Isn't that what it said? Some of you were here. He was shocked. I don't understand what happened. She was fully funded, i.e., more money spent on her campaign than any presidential campaign in history. Again, while they sat there and they blamed or they made accusations, oh, Trump bought the presidency because Elon gave him a donation. They still made practically twice what Trump pulled in donations. I forget how much Trump made, but $1.2 billion, the Democratic Party, and went over budget and still lost. And by the way, I looked into it. She's still 20 million in the hole. Because I saw an article where they were questioning her being at the Met Gala because they want to know if she actually paid for her $75,000 ticket to get into the Met or if someone bought it for her, because she still owes people. Still owes money. 1.2 billion, the most ever spent in history. Fully funded indeed. JJ thinks Democrats are going to have to retire racist and misogyny cards. They've almost worn them out. People are sick of it. You know, I'm hearing all the time now, and this is the thing, people having black fatigue, right? I think they also have sexist fatigue, racist fatigue. Well, that ties in with black fatigue, as well as LGB movement fatigue. Even people in the gay community are sick of it. And allegedly it's for them. Honestly, pandemic fatigue is long gone. Incredible. The former president blamed Trump for scuttling a bipartisan agreement on border security, which would have given Biden an election year win on a primary issue in the campaign. Instead, Trump argued Biden was ignoring the problem and was responsible for a flood of migrants across the border. That's true, though. Biden also pointed to his administration's legislative success, including an infrastructure bill, but he said we weren't quite as good as he was when it came to marketing accomplishments. Success in administration, legislative success is what he's saying. So creating new laws is what he's saying he was the most successful in. That's true, because he created more bureaucracy and red tape than any other president in history in one term. In a single term. Incredible. Monkey said you're unironically both Elon and Trump were former Democrats, so they out-democratic them. Indeed. And Flukeman said talk too much fatigue. And he was on there with Jill, by the way. Jill brought him out because after the flubs at the BBC, I guess they wanted to put him with his handler again. And that's what she is, his official handler. Marvel fans joined us. She's there to babysit him. She's there to babysit him. But yeah, that's what it is. Was not surprised Trump won because of sexism, racism, and COVID. But as I pointed out the other day on the BBC, we read the article yesterday, he was shocked. He couldn't believe she lost. So which is it, Biden? Which is it? Did you think that because that was a BBC interview, only British people would hear that, and that no one in America would know? That no one would hear that? Is that what you thought? Or did you forget you said it? Or maybe that was the other Joe Biden. Split personality Joe Biden. Possibly. And like I said, he went as far as blaming COVID. Biden quotes also on The View, he has had the worst 100 days that any president has ever had. Are you sure about that? Are you sure about that? Anyone notice the price of gas or eggs lately? Has anyone seen that? Been to the supermarket? Meat's down, eggs are down, oil's down per barrel. I think under the Biden administration, oil peaked at a dollar, 147 a barrel. It's about 57 right now, I think. Rounding. I was looking at that earlier today. It's going a little slower than he expected, but Trump's getting done what he said he was going to do. He's had the worst 100 days that any president has ever had. I don't agree. And they asked him, why is he so fixated on you? Trump. Why is Trump so fixated on you? And Biden says, quote, I beat him. Biden said, I'm used to dealing with bullies. Are you? It strikes me you are the bully. I've read many articles where people that have worked with Biden have detailed the experience as him being very harsh, very vulgar, very loud and obnoxious, very threatening, very pushy, kind of like a male Ellen DeGeneres, treating people like shit behind the scenes. Used to dealing with bullies or used to being an oogie? JJ says eggs for 6.18 per 18 count at Sam's Club. Also the brown eggs. Well, brown eggs are local eggs and local eggs are fresh. That's the old slogan in New England when they used to advertise them on TV. Armin says we could just reduce coffee bean prices too. Is coffee up? League says Biden can't even remember the last 100 days. Probably not. Probably not. I've got tons of coffee in storage, so sealed and put away in our pantry. So I don't. I mean, I can't remember the last time we had to buy coffee. I don't know how coffee's doing right now. I don't know how coffee's doing right now. But that's what he had to say. First, he said that he was shocked she lost. Now he says he's not surprised because people are so racist and so sexist, and somehow COVID. Somehow COVID's a problem still. And don't worry, we are getting to the thumbnail. I know you're all chomping at the bit, but we're getting to the thumbnail, but there's a few more things to round the corner on first. Breaking news, breaking news. I have to have some breaking news in there, or else ScrewTube will give me a hard time for that, for having breaking in the title. Did you know that? If it's not news that's within the last 24 hours, and you put breaking in the title, they'll take your video down. I'm serious. Newsweek article. Donald Trump announces the first trade deal since tariffs. And this is interesting because he had already said that there would be an announcement coming Thursday, and he was right. It's Thursday, and here it is. And he has closed his first official tariff deal. after all of the kicking back and forth. So I'll run this over really quick. President Trump had said that Thursday should be a very big and exciting day for the U.S. and the United Kingdom after previously touting a major trade deal the countries are due to announce. Speaking with Newsweek, a Downing Street spokesman confirmed they expect the UK-US trade deal to be announced later today. Since his second inauguration, January 20th, Trump has dramatically reshaped U.S. trade policy by announcing a series of major tariffs on trading partners, some of which he has partially walked back. While some economic experts have criticized the Trump administration's use of tariffs to compel countries to the negotiating table, be quiet. New trade deals could help the president justify the economic disruption that has accompanied his tariff policy. The US and UK are expected to outline an agreement on heads of terms for an eventual full trade deal, according to multiple reports in the British media, which is a key first step. So here we go. Trade with within the United Kingdom. Jane wants to know, yeah, the statue. We're getting to the statue, and it's going to be there till June. June 17th, I think, is when they're supposed to remove that statue. It's temporary. It's temporary, but yeah, we're going to be talking about that here shortly. JJ says when the news breaks, David will fix it. Yeah, let me fix that for you. Let me fix that for you by pointing out the obvious flaws in what they're trying to tell you. So yeah, trade agreement. And there's the UK Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, in the Oval Office. And that was in February. So this is how long that's been in the works. Our ancestors, as it were, from across the pond. Armin says future Coffee Talk fans need to include Buck, Chuck, and Duck. Oh yeah, because of Tuck and Puck. We got a Luck in there. He calls himself Lucky, though. Lucky Luciano. I don't know if he's in here today. Did I see Lucky in here? I don't remember. I could have seen the name and glazed over it. We talked about Bernie Sanders the other day also. And I'm going to go to an independent journal review here because Bernie has put his foot deep in his mouth. Deep in his mouth. Being questioned about the private jet thing. Okay? I'm not sure about that, Puck. I'll put that comment up. It says Bernie Sanders trying to justify flying private jets nationwide for fighting oligarchy tour. As you all well know, Bernie Sanders on his Fight the Oligarchy tour has been running around with AOC telling everybody that rich people are bad and eat the rich and make the rich pay their fair share while spending $15,000 an hour on private jets on this tour, running around the country. And again, I asked the question, when the hell are you sitting your ass in Vermont and taking care of your constituents when you're everywhere else? AOC too. When are you in your borough, sweetheart? Aren't you supposed to be representing your constituents? Incredible. But he's been slammed with that because so far since January, he spent $250,000 on private jets. And it really calls him out as quite a hypocrite. It makes him quite a hypocrite. And so he's been questioned about that. Independent Vermont senator, please don't tell me you're independent. Just say socialist. Because that's what he is. He's a Marxist. Marxist Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders defended his use of private jets on Fox News Wednesday and dismissed criticism as being out of touch, as he refuses to apologize for what he said is a necessary tool of modern campaigning. Sanders' campaign reportedly has spent $221,723 on private jets so far in 2025 that they know of. Let me point that out. With the first payment made just before his anti-oligarchy tour even began, according to Free Beacon. During an appearance on Special Report with Brett Baer, Sanders justifies his campaign travel and said there are logistical demands when trying to reach tens of thousands of voters across the country in short windows of time. Shouldn't you only be worried about the voters in Vermont, Senator? Quote, when's the last time you saw Donald Trump during a campaign mode at National Airport? You run a campaign and you do 3 or 4 or 5 rallies in a week. The only way you can get around to talk to 30,000 people. Do you think I'm going to be sitting in waiting in line at United, waiting? You know what? 30,000 people are waiting, said Sanders. And then Sanders doubled down on the decision and refused to apologize when asked. Tuck says there'll be an excuse which includes the phrase bigger picture, probably. So he's comparing himself to Donald Trump here. Oh, you think Donald Trump, blah, blah, blah. First of all, you're not the president, Sanders. You tried and you failed. More than once. Hell, you even knuckled under. You even knuckled under to allow them to put Hillary over you. You made a deal to put Hillary over and walked away from your campaign, Bernie. So much for your principles. Okay? You're not the president. And furthermore, Trump doesn't run around kicking sand at anybody's face for using a jet. He's not the one pointing at other people and saying, oh, look at them, global warming and your private jets and your oligarchs. But it's okay if you do it. That's called being a hypocrite, Bernie. That's what that is. And I'm glad he didn't apologize. I'm glad he didn't apologize because it would have been phony anyways. He's a big phony anyways. It would have been fake. If he said, oh, I'm sorry about that, nobody cares. Nobody would believe that. Nobody believes you, Bernie. It's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. You're going to sit there and point the finger at other people. And what's his problem? Oh, you think I'm going to wait in line at United? Everyone else does. Not that you would even wait in line. Bernie's not going to wait in line. He'll fly business class or first class, and he'll skip the line because he's elderly. He's old. He'll go right ahead. He'll be getting on with the people in wheelchairs, unless Crockett's there. Sven says Sanders whines about the same things the author of Mein Kampf whined about. Coincidence? Not much. And Tuck says, why can't these greenies just upload videos rather than physically traveling like friggin' barons? Because he doesn't want to do his job. Then he'd be expected to sit in Vermont and actually do his damn job. AOC too. Why is it AOC running around with him? She's a representative of a borough in New York, and she's never there. She's never there. Bernie's never in Vermont. Hell, Tim Walz still hasn't gone back to Minnesota. Isn't he still governor? Did I miss something? Isn't he still governor of Minnesota? Isn't Bernie still a senator in Vermont? When do these people do their jobs? That's what pisses me off the most. And you don't have to do anything miraculous. You don't have to make history. You don't have to break records. Just do your damn job and be there for your people. That's what you claim to be doing, right? But they're not. They're running around all over the country, running their mouths, pointing the finger at everyone else, and doing the things they're accusing everyone else of. And he has the nerve to sit there and try to compare himself to, oh, you don't see Trump waiting to get, well, Trump's the president. He gets on Air Force One. Okay, jackass? He kind of has to at this point. And if Trump has his own private jet and flies around in his own jet, that's a lot different than renting the most expensive private jet that you could find so that you could be in the lap of luxury. That's Marxism at its finest, because Karl Marx was about as decadent and about as crooked. And the fact that AOC is palling around with him tells you everything you need to know about her. It's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. You get tired of it. And then he tries to he says he has to turn it back to his core message. I think at a time when the people's on top are doing phenomenally well, when seniors, working class people are struggling, people want to hear action, to stand up to the people who have the wealth and the power to create an economy that works for all of us, not just the people on top. Aren't you kind of talking about yourself there? Multi-million-dollar jet setting, Bernie Sanders limo riding, jet setting, wheeling and dealing, gambling, Magic Mountain. I'm turning Bernie Sanders into Ric Flair here. Kiss the girls will make him cry, even the fat one sitting over there. Armin says Bernie does it for the likes and subs. Who likes him and who's subscribing? Does anybody? I mean, somebody must attach themselves to this hypocrite, right? Bernie Sanders have a fan club? Does it cost anything to join? Where's the money coming from to pay for this private jet? So remember, that was before the Fight the Oligarchy tour. He was already up to $221,000 in private jet rentals from January. And since the Oligarchy tour, he's still been flying. How much has that cost, and who's paying for it? JJ is taking a page out of my playbook there. He says, we're in the wrong line of work. We should run for office under the Democratic ticket, then we can do what we want and collect a fat paycheck while not even doing our jobs. Not even doing our jobs. I know. And I told you it was going to happen. Here we go. We're going to get to the thumbnail. Wondering what the hell that's all about? Oh, you'll love this. You will love this. The Times Square statue. The Times Square statue that's been erected of Karen waiting for the manager. That's what I call it. That's not what it is. It's actually a DEI statue, and that's what it actually says in the headline. But Times Square touts new statue of a 12-foot tall black woman as stark contrast to statues of white men. Yes. The Times Square website contrasted the new statue with the two that have stood for decades, summarizing them both as white men. And I think it's, that's really not fair. That's really not fair. And I'll tell you why here in a moment. There's a particular significance that's being undermined here. League says the statue looks like how a child stands when they're proud that they finally learned to use potty. Do you think so? And Sven says the statue's maker took some racist liberties. Now they said across the and I don't know if it's mentioned in this article, across from the statues of two white men that have been there for decades. Here's the clincher, and I'll read the article. I didn't read this article yet, but here's the clincher. This is a fictional character. This is a statue that
Stop wasting your time on diets that never work. Drop 20 pounds by June without cravings, 4 times cheaper, and 2 times faster than Ozempic. No doctor's appointments. Just fill out the short questionnaire and get approved in 5 minutes.
Unbelievable. That is annoying. is a fictional character. It was just made up. It could be anyone. It's an overweight black woman posturing.
Democrats have been on a statue jihad since the summer of love.
That is annoying.
Christopher Columbus, Teddy Roosevelt, George Washington, even Honest Abe, even Frederick Douglass.
Can I at least shut off the audio?
Statues are important.
For God's sakes.
They tell the American story. But the left wants to desecrate and forget our.
That's annoying. That's really annoying. All right. The statue, and I'll try to get that back open in a minute. The statues that she's adjacent to of these two so-called white men are two historically significant characters for the state of New York. The first one is a World War II Army veteran who was a clergyman, who is the most decorated clergyman in history, militarily speaking. The other statue is the founder of Broadway. He's the one that basically created Broadway. They have significant, Nash, rabble. The ads wouldn't shut down. I couldn't pause it. But these are two historically significant characters, although most people wouldn't know that. Most people wouldn't know that because, you see statues all over the place. You don't know who the hell anybody is. You really don't. You don't know who the hell anybody is in these statues. Okay? But that's who these two statues are. They do have a historical significance. I don't know their names, but if the article has it, I'll read it. Okay? This was spent and set up. This was set up to create conflict and division. Art, the true nature of art is for appreciation, but art can also be manipulated and used for propaganda. And we're in a culture now of counter propaganda where art is created not to try to unite people. Like, for example, the art that you would see during the Cold War from like Russia, the USSR, and their propaganda machine. That was supposed to bring
the best Fox Nation originals, exclusives, and
modern
premium content, and non-stop music, sports, news, and time with the Sirius XM Fox Nation bundle for only $11.99 a month.
Okay, and that's what this is.
Democrats have been on a statue jihad since the summer of love.
It's designed to
Christopher Columbus, Teddy Roosevelt, George Washington, even
designed to pull people apart. So they put her across from two historic characters and say that she's standing her own against the dominance of white men. So getting into the article here, it says New York City's Times Square installed a statue of a 12-foot tall black woman in casual clothing that its creator hopes will encourage people to reflect on greater cultural diversity. New York-based Times Square Arts recently put up the new statue display titled Grounded in the Stars by artist Thomas Price, along with his Man series animated billboards, both of which are temporary but causing a stir, and which is all they're designed to do. The Times Square's website states Price's multi-channel presentation on the screens and sculptural installation on the plaza below forms a two-part takeover in Times Square that foregrounds an intrinsic value of the individual and amplifies traditionally marginalized bodies on a monumental scale. So basically, somehow black women are marginalized. So we need to take a random black female statue of basically nobody, because this person doesn't exist. It's just an artist rendition of a black female, and contrast her against two people with historical significance. And show that she has more value than them or equal value somehow. All right. And that ties into this whole, like, counterculture that we have in the West of everybody thinking that they have so much worth while contributing nothing. This arrogance. And that's what this statue to me represents. Arrogance. My opinion. It says Times Square stands as an iconic symbol and site of convergence, uniting people from all walks of life, individual stories and experiences intersecting on a global platform. The intention of my public works is to become part of the place they inhabit and its physical material history, as well as the visions that pass through and around the location, no matter how fleeting, Price said in a statement. I hope Grounded in the Stars and Man series will instigate meaningful connections and bind intimate emotional states that allow for deeper reflection around the human condition and greater cultural diversity. No, this is creating division. And that's really what it was intended for. I don't care what he claims he thinks it's for. The function of something like this is to create division between people. Price's official website claims that he tacitly dissects both implicit and explicit expressions of anti-blackness. So he feels, I guess, that people are inherently racist, or whites are. It says Price also explains both her stature and her unbothered gaze are markers of status and authority. This is a figure who understands her worth. Does she, or is she just a snarky bitch? Because I see people standing around looking like this all the time. It's called being arrogant. This is the woman, and I saw this clip actually on the Hodge twins the other day of a woman in, I think, Wendy's or something, and the ice cream machine or the smoothie machine or something wasn't working, and she threw a fit. And she's got her kid there, little kid, and she starts knocking everything off the counter and throwing things. And she goes over to the drink counter and she's pulling the ketchup packets out and throwing them on the floor. Pick this up, bitch. Pick this up, bitch. Older woman, looked like she was in her 30s with a little kid. That's who this represents. Oh, she knows her worth too. And she's going to cut up and show that she has no emotional control at all. Oh, they do tell you here. Okay. They do tell you. The other articles I read didn't tell you anything, but this does explain who the other statues are. Let me get here. The statues of historic white men in Times Square are Father Francis P. Duffy, the most decorated chaplain in Army history who served in World War I. Okay, there you go. And the Spanish-American War. As well as playwright George M. Cohen, who composed iconic American works such as You're a Grand Old Flag, and is credited for laying the groundwork for the creation of Broadway as a center for the performing arts. They don't show you the statues. They show like this picture. Hold on. That image of the statue doesn't show his face. Those are historically significant New Yorkers. Those are historically significant New Yorkers. And she's supposed to be staring them down because she knows her worth. What is her worth? What is the average? The reason that people who have accomplished something used to get statues is because they accomplished something phenomenal. Most decorated chaplain in military history. And then, which, you know, I don't know how significant that is, but for the time period, World War I, yeah, that was probably kind of significant. Nowadays, maybe not so much. But for the time period, yes. And if it's been there that long, leave it alone. And the other guy, founded Broadway. Broadway is very culturally significant to New York. Very culturally significant. The statue is there. I don't care what they claim it's for. This statue has been erected to create division. Because that's all we get in the West anymore. Sven says Democrats will tear the statue down in 50 years. It only has a temporary permit. It's supposed to come down June 17th. June or July. June or July, I think. And someone asked, I think Jane asked about who the hell is Paul is the artist. I saw a link here. Let me see if I can find it. If I can catch him again. If I can get to a link to his website, maybe we can see who he is. Maybe we can see who he is. I'm going to guess that the artist is black. Yeah, Thomas J. Price. Ugh. Thomas J. Price, and I'll try to look him up. And then we'll take a look really quick and see who he is exactly. Let me close that. And we'll find out. Is this him? Okay. Here's an image of Thomas J. Price. I'll pull it up. I'll try to pull it up. View image. He looks mixed, actually. There he is. He looks mixed. There you are. Armand says the statue voted for Kamala twice. JJ wants to know how long before it's vandalized. I don't think anybody's going to touch that statue. And all people suggest the statue should have an afro hairstyle. Yeah. Well, she doesn't. She doesn't. She does not. So there you go. There you go. That's what's going on with that. And Phil is here. He says, just joining. Glad you could make it today. And Jane wants to know, what is her worth? What the heck? Still makes no sense. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I guess he means from an intellectual point of view that, like, the average person also has a worth. Everybody has a worth if they're willing to work for it. You can't just get a worth for nothing. Brian wants a statue of me. I don't think anybody wants that. I don't think anybody wants that. I'm not that kind of famous. I don't think I'm really famous at all, honestly. But it's kind of like the modern cultural equivalent of everybody gets a trophy when only a couple of people actually earned it. First, second, and third place, maybe fourth if it's a big enough competition. It's yeah, Jane says all humans have a worth. Sure, but they don't all exercise it. They don't all exercise it. And Frankie says your cats would. But yeah, my cats would appreciate the statue. Yeah, they'll climb on it all day. While we're in New York, we may as well look at some corruption. New York Post article coming up here. New York Democrats pack a budget full of self-serving perks. Watchdog group has nothing positive to say about it. Shouldn't come as a surprise. Shouldn't come as a surprise. So there we go. Democrat leaders packed the long overdue state budget with policy measures that will benefit themselves, including changes that can help bolster re-election bids with taxpayer money. The massive budget package that was set to be voted on beginning Wednesday includes measures to tweak the public campaign financing system, allow lawmakers to keep collecting salary from side jobs, and even help Governor Hochul ward off challenges from her estranged lieutenant governor. All in all, and this is a quote from the Reinvert executive director of Reinvent Albany. Okay, that's the watchdog group. All in all, it's a generally bad. Hold still. It's a generally bad Albany at its cynical worst, and we have nothing positive to say about this and how they've done this. Just underlines that these are self-serving changes, Democrat incumbents. The budget deal will delay a cap on lawmakers' outside income, pushing it out until at least 2027, a ban that was supposed to go into effect this year, but has been held up due to a court challenge brought by Republican lawmakers. After a lower court ruled earlier this year the cap was constitutional. Democrats in the legislature also secured a measure jacking up the limit on donations to be eligible for public funding. Previously, candidates could have donations up to $250 matched by taxpayer funds, provided the individual contributing doesn't go over that amount, which I do not agree with that practice at all. I don't agree with that practice. The limit is now being raised to $1,050, though the state will still only pony up a max of $250 to match it. The program's original stated intent was to incentivize candidates who were seeking contributions from normal working people instead of the fat cat donor class. I don't like the idea of matching funds. I don't like the idea of matching funds at all. When it comes to political donations, I don't agree with that. If people want to donate, donate, but don't take tax money and give it to these people so they can run and squander it. And especially, oh God, what's her name? Stacey Abrams comes to mind. And the millions that she spent running for governor twice, and somehow has become a millionaire herself in the process because she didn't have any money when she started. Paul wants to know, where's Doge? Yeah, they need to break down New York and California and Massachusetts and New Jersey. JJ says we've come full circle to another story about corrupt Democrats. What a surprise. What a surprise. Critics of the change, like, who is that? Caney, trying to pronounce the name right, argue it will run against the matching program's original intent by extending those incentives to wealthy donors as well. They're weakening a landmark campaign finance bill that was passed in broad daylight after 8 all-day public hearings and dozens of other consultative meetings and an enormous amount of public debate in daylight. So, yeah, they're just basically bolstering their ability to stay in office and continue to fund themselves. And Buck doesn't like the statue. He says it's hideous. It looks like a Target shoplifter. And you erect statues of heroes and scholars, not this. Yeah, well, you should. Heroes and scholars. I mean, that was usually who got a statue back in the day. Things have changed. And again, the whole purpose behind that statue is to create division. They claim it's for unity, for people to realize their self-worth, but then it doesn't represent all people, does it? It represents one very specific demographic, Black and female. And the only reason that you would do that is to piss everybody off. You're trying to make people upset, to sensationalize, which it's been successful. It's been successful because everybody's upset. Unless you read through the comments on social media, because the social media comments look like all AI generated fluff. Oh, this is so wonderful and progressive. Oh, DEI is alive again. Okay, sure. I don't believe a bot wrote that, I swear. And winding in here, I wanted to talk about Bill Gates, since we're on the subject of division, because he says he's going to give away all his money. Can I have some? Hey, Bill, come on, hook a brother up. Business Insider. Bill Gates is ramping up giving away billions and plans to close his foundation. There he is. Old turkey neck with his little rainbow pin. You suck, Bill. Bill Gates has revealed plans to shut down his charitable foundation at the end of 2045, several decades earlier than intended. Quote, "There's too many urgent problems to solve for me to hold on to resources that could be used to help the people. That is why I've decided to give my money back to society much faster than I had originally planned. I will give away virtually all my wealth through the Gates Foundation over the next 20 years to the causes of saving and improving life around the world." The Microsoft co-founder initially made his announcement in an interview with the New York Times to mark the 25th anniversary of the Gates Foundation, which is the third largest charitable scam operation in the world. I added that part. The organization was launched in 2000 by Gates and his then wife, Melinda French Gates, when they were 44 and 35, respectively. Gates said in the interview that the foundation had achieved far more than I or I think anyone expected, and helped reduce the number of childhood deaths from 10 million to 5 million a year. Oh, you go overseas to any of those countries where vaccines that his companies and organizations funded by Bill Gates experimented with those shots on children and others in Africa and South America and the Middle East, and asked them how they feel about it. There are countries that won't even let anyone associated with Gates in anymore. You reduced deaths from 10 million to 5 million, did you? And then what, cost 20 million others? But all this just people in third world countries, so who gives a shit? Genetic experimentation on insects. Trying to feed people bugs. Who remembers the article that we read, this was last year, about the company that he was funding that was making artificial dairy products out of soldier fly maggots. You remember their slogan? It has a creamy mouth feel. A creamy mouth feel. Oh my God. Incredible. Bill Gates is the guy trying to poison us with injections, feed us insects, and he talks about what great work they've done. And he wants to give away more money faster so he can kill us more quickly, I guess. Armand says, is Bill so bored he has to do what he does? He's like Pelosi can't just retire and enjoy life. He's like a Bond villain. That's what he is. And Kent said the WHO and NIH money laundering, thanks for covering the Gates crime. Yeah, Gates is, oh, incredible. It says Gates stepped down as Microsoft's CEO in 2008 to devote more time to the foundation. No, that's a lie. He stepped down in Microsoft, or he started backing away from Microsoft when it was discovered to be a monopoly, right? Isn't that when he had to back off of Microsoft and they were forced to split the organization? It held $69 billion in assets in 2020 and has an endowment of $75.2 billion as of 2023. The foundation has donated tens of billions to causes such as global health, there it is, gender equity, because Lord knows we need more money dumped into that, and water sanitation programs, fluoride. Warren Buffett, who made headlines last week when he announced he was stepping down from Berkshire Hathaway, was central to the Gates Foundation. No surprise there. No surprise there. I ought to get my wife to tell you about fluoride. Next time she's out here, remind me to ask her about fluoride. I'm not kidding. You know, it's extremely dangerous, and it's a corrosive. Because one of the groups that she works with handles fluoride, and they warn if you spill it on the floor, it'll eat right through the floor like an Aliens movie. It's really dangerous. Bill Gates is a fraud. I don't know what happened to that guy. I would have nothing to say. I don't care if he has money. I don't care. I don't care. People say he stole it. He was smart. He made a smart business deal. Ultimately, that's what Bill Gates did. Most people would have done the same thing. Just sit there and enjoy your money, man. Stop telling me how to live. Piss off. That's really what it boils down to. I don't care if people have a lot of money. Just don't tell me what to do. As we look at the debt clock here really quickly, just want to see, of course, where Doge is at. Doge projection, according to the debtclock.org, is $407 billion. And it looks like it's going to hit 408 billion probably within the next couple of hours or sooner. So with that, and there's a user from space. There you are. With that, we're at the top of the hour. So we will go ahead and start signing off again. You're listening to and/or watching Coffee Talk, and you can find the live portion Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube and on Prepper University and on Coffee Talk. You can find me on X at Coffee Talk Chat. You can find me on fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta. So thank you, everybody, for joining us here today. As always, hope you got something out of the conversation, and we will catch you again tomorrow.